Well, Annalise, I think we've seen throughout the course of these past months that Mr. Jones and many of his colleagues would rather save the super industry than save the country from this pandemic. And this is basically vested interests talking through the mouthpiece of elected representatives. And Mr. Jones would know that all elected members and senators engage regularly with their constituents, and this is a very complicated industry. So we should all be trying to help people, get access to their super if they're eligible.
Your letter, though, doesn't go into eligibility requirements. It doesn't say that you need to be in hardship. Should you have been clearer?
Well, the letter sets out exactly how people can access it, and they then have to comply with the laws that the Parliament have enacted to get access to super. But as I said before, Annalise, Mr. Jones is running these lines. He's running these lines for his friends at the industry super funds. And I think it is really sad that he can't think for himself.
But there are rules around giving financial advice out, and you do need to be quite careful with what you're telling people to do. And this policy is supposed to be for people who are experiencing financial hardship, not just anyone who would like to draw on their super. So should you have been clearer, or have you potentially breached financial advice laws?
Well, ASIC has actually provided advice that parliamentarians can advise constituents about the new laws that we have enacted in relation to super. And I think the super industry is very opaque. And I think Mr. Jones is again trying to protect the industry, not look after constituents. It's very hard to navigate, as you know from your book and other things, Annalise. And many Australians will need help in trying to access their super under the laws the Parliament has enacted.
He said you're ideologically opposed to superannuation in principle. Are you?
No, not at all. I think superannuation is a good idea. I think in many respects hasn't been run to benefit members. I think certainly the unions and the large financial institutions have done very well out of super. And as I said, it's very hard to tell who's actually making these statements, because all the Labor front and back bench just parrot the lines that have been drafted for them by the super industry. It really is a very strong case of vested interests trying to pollute public discussion. I mean, we're trying to get through a pandemic here, and the Parliament has enacted a whole bunch of new payments and measures to help Australia get through. One of those is super. I thought this was a bipartisan judgment by the Labor Party.
And the other thing that Stephen Jones said was that you've referred to ASIC to monitor industry advertising as being potentially dangerous, and that it's quite similar to the advice that you're giving. Do you think that's hypocritical, or is Stephen Jones trying to score some political points?
Well, he's obviously trying to make someone happy by running all these lines constantly. I mean, it would be absurd if the super industry could spend people's retirement savings to try and encourage them not to comply with the law to access their super if they're eligible to do so. I mean, this really is a strong case of other people's money, vested interests and privilege. And we're really interested in trying to get Australia through this pandemic, and some people are eligible to get access to their super, and that's a good thing. It is, after all, their money. It doesn't belong to the industry, it belongs to the workers who put it there.
Will you cooperate with ASIC if it is referred to this issue is referred to them?
Well, ASIC has given very clear guidance through the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Corporations and Financial Services, which Senator Patterson chairs, where they have set out that parliamentarians are absolutely within their rights to explain new schemes to their constituents. Now, superannuation is notoriously complicated, so I would encourage all my colleagues to explain these measures to the communities we represent in federal parliament.